For over a decade, the Gilgo Beach murders cast a long, dark shadow over Long Island, leaving a community haunted by unanswered questions. But in July of 2023, the shroud began to lift as authorities apprehended a suspect whose unassuming facade seemed to contradict the horror attributed to him. Charged with the cold-blooded murders of multiple women, his arrest sent shockwaves through the nation, and now the accused killer was back in court fighting the DNA results connected to 2 strands of hair belonging to his wife and daughter. Will prosecutors be able to use this crucial evidence? But first, in the early morning hours of a frigid January day in 2022, tragedy struck in Canton, Massachusetts. Boston police officer John O'Keefe was found lifeless, his body partially buried in the snow outside of a fellow officer's home. The chilling discovery sent shockwaves through the community, unraveling a narrative rife with love, betrayal, and alleged deception. At the heart of this storm stood Karen Reed, John O'Keefe's girlfriend, now thrust into the glaring spotlight of suspicion, then charged with his murder. Prosecutors say she ran him over with her SUV in a jealous rage. But Karen's defense alleges a sinister cover-up within the ranks of law enforcement. They contend that O'Keefe was killed inside that home, 34 Fairview, and Karen Reed was then framed to shield the true killers. Now, as the retrial starts, the air is thick with anticipation. Jury selection is underway, and crucial rulings continue to be rendered by the judge, including one connected to how John O'Keefe died. Tonight, we have all the latest.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments, and they're getting closer and closer to seating a jury in the Karen Reed retrial of the century. As we get ready for it and we prepare for it, the judge is still making rulings. I want to go back to that interview I did with one of the jurors who told me, I asked him, so what happened? I don't know what happened. He literally said, I don't know what happened. You know, he saw and heard all the evidence. He discussed it with fellow jurors. And at the end of the day, he came to the conclusion that he did not know what happened to John O'Keefe. Well, that made him a not guilty juror, but it raises another question. I mean, we had so much evidence, so much testimony, and arguments made by both sides in this case. And a lot of those arguments were out here about things perhaps other than John O'Keefe, exactly what happened to him. For example, Trooper Proctor, a biased investigation. He was fired because of that biased investigation, but that came out in front of the jury, the fact that he wrote all these text messages, made his mind up, hated Karen Reed, believed she did it, and he ended up getting disciplined for all of it. As important as that is to figuring out what happened to John O'Keefe, the investigation itself is not about what happened to John O'Keefe. These were the people who were supposed to figure it out and then prove it. And they didn't get it done in the first trial. But to me, the issue of the investigation and the bias of the investigation is important, but it doesn't answer the question of exactly what happened to John O'Keefe. Then you had Karen Reed. She made alleged confessions. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. Did I hit him or I hit him, right? So you had that evidence, which seems to be direct evidence of what happened to John O'Keefe, but that didn't convince all 12 jurors beyond a reasonable doubt. So then the issue became, well, did she actually confess or did she not confess? What did she actually say? And it became almost again it's an important issue, but it doesn't tell you what happened to John O'Keefe, because the issue is, did she actually confess? What did she actually say? Who really heard it? All of that was kind of tossed up in the air. It's sort of a sideshow. and all the witnesses, the eyewitnesses, the McCabe's, the Alberts, the other investigators, the videos, everything else, to me, didn't convince these jurors what happened. Which brings us to the experts. And I'm wondering, in all of this, is it up to the experts? John O'Keefe has certain injuries. He's found in a certain place. And the question is it up to the experts to prove one way or another, whether it's the defense or the prosecution, to prove what actually happened to John O'Keefe? Because that's where the jury ended up. The jury was not talking about murder. The jury was not talking about motive. They dismissed that. Counts 1 and 3, leaving the scene of the accident, that was not in play. What was in play was, how did he die? Did her car actually hit him? And that wasn't resolved. But that's where they ended up, because they did not believe the first jury, despite the way everything ended up. They did not believe that it was murder. They did not believe that she knowingly left the scene of an accident. So they're really down to, did she accidentally hit him or not? And that's something that I think only the experts can prove. And it's going to be significant. It's going to be important. Do you remember who the expert was for the Commonwealth in the first case? He was a trooper, Trooper Joe Paul. Take a look.
So the vehicle was traveling in reverse.
And how fast was the vehicle traveling and over what distance?
The vehicle traveled up to 24 miles per hour and approximately 62 feet.
What, if anything, occurred then?
The right rear of the Lexus struck the pedestrian, John O'Keefe.
And post-collision, what, if anything, occurred with regard to Mr. O'Keefe?
Mr. O'Keefe was projected forward and to the left along the front yard of 34 Fairview Road. So the taillight in this case was shattered when it was struck John O'Keefe's arm. Based on what I saw for his injuries was from the upper part of his arm down.
Okay, I was underwhelmed at the trial by a Trooper Joe Paul, and he's probably a great guy and probably a great trooper, but this is beyond, and I said it at the time, this was beyond his expertise. Like, he can report facts about where he was found, the tail light, what it looked like, you know, those sort of things, fine. Like, but to sort of extrapolate and come up with some sort of mathematical equation or something based upon what you've studied, like, that was not him. That was not him. So what is the prosecution going to do in the retrial? Well, they're going to up their game. And that is one advantage that they're going to have second time around that they didn't have first time around. I mean, that was not the correct expert to opine about what happened to John O'Keefe. Now they've got a guy, and he's been cleared by the judge now to testify, a doctor, that's important, Judson B. Welcher. Okay? Now, I don't think he's a medical doctor. He's a biomechanical engineer. He's an accident reconstructionist. He has a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from Cal Poly. Like, this is the real deal. A Master of Science in Biomedical Engineering from USC, the one out in California. 28 years of experience in biomechanical engineering and accident reconstruction, specializing in trauma causation and prevention, human tolerance, restraint design, accident reconstruction, amusement park rider tolerances as well. He's qualified and has testified as an expert in over 200 trials. Now you see the difference between him and Trooper Joe Paul. Trooper Joe Paul, I'm sure he's a great trooper. I really do, and he can go to the scene of an accident, in your run-of-the-mill sort of accident and report on facts that he finds. But when you're putting together the pieces and trying to reconstruct what you believe happened, you need someone like this. So what's going to be the impact of this new, I'm going to call him like a super expert for the Commonwealth. Let's bring in our live think tank in studio tonight. Criminal defense attorney, entertainment attorney, former assistant DA in Atlanta, and also down in Florida, by the way. Daryl Cohen is with us. Criminal defense attorney, law professor Meg Strickler, and criminal defense attorney, the man behind the glasses, Josh Schiffer.
Man, can I cross-examine Doc for a second?
Why?
Expert Doc?
You don't think he's an expert?
Oh, no. He is 100% an expert witness. And a good cross-examination is going to go deeply into the kind of work he performs.
What does he do?
Well, he testifies for plaintiffs' lawyers. And he's produced millions and millions of dollars in verdicts against businesses. And he's available to review all of your stuff. And if you're trying to go ambulance chase, he's the kind of guy that you want to hire 101, because you know that with his expertise, with that background, jurors love that stuff.
Well, let's not call them ambulance chasers.
Oh, no, that's the
these
lawyers.
are people who bring justice to people who are hurt and harmed.
You're telling me we do personal injury at my firm, and that's exactly why.
Don't call yourself an ambulance chaser. You're out there getting justice for people who've been hurt in car, bus accidents, etc.
I actually have Daryl chase the ambulances. I'm way too slow. He has very spry knees.
All right.
Oh, yeah.
Is this going to make a difference?
Absolutely. The state needs his testimony to be rock solid. The defense needs to destroy him as much as possible.
I think the Commonwealth has fallen into the trap that I've seen happen in California over and over again.
What is that?
Over trying the case. Oh. This is simple. The KISS method. Keep it short, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Did Karen Reed hit her ex-boyfriend? I think he did. I think the evidence shows that he did, if you believe that evidence. But did she do it intentionally? I don't believe so, because there was a snowstorm. And I think the Commonwealth has overcharged her, and they need to get it simple. Keep it simple. Very simple.
Well, the most simple thing they need to do to prove any of the charges here is to establish beyond a reasonable doubt that her SUV actually struck John O'Keefe. And as you know, the juror I interviewed, as well as several others, they weren't convinced.
And maybe this expert, we don't know, is very good at translating all the technical stuff into English. And if he's very good at speaking to the jury and the jury pool and just saying, look, this is jury pool, I apologize, but the jurors, and saying, look, this is what happened, and let me explain it, kind of like Trooper Joe Paul did, but to augment that, and then he's got the doctor behind him, then nobody's going to be able to cross him with any real merit.
Trooper Joe did the job that a trooper does, but he wasn't the expert that the Commonwealth needs, and this doctor is.
Right.
I don't think that matters.
Did you see Trooper Joe's testimony?
I did. I don't think it matters. I think the jury, for the most part, has pre-made up their mind, even though they will say under oath they have not. And I'm wondering if they're going to hear.
Daryl doesn't trust our jurors in Massachusetts?
I didn't say our jurors, those jurors.
Those jurors.
I think they have been so amassed with so much pro-Karen Reed, hate Karen Reed, love Karen Reed.
They're hearing
She's
it
being
outside
framed.
the window, and they're like, free Karen Reed, and they're hearing it right outside.
Not this time.
They will.
Yeah.
They will. They'll get megaphones.
But all right, if they were chanting it last time and they heard it, they didn't free Karen Reed last time, so apparently they need to scream louder.
I don't know.
They
Most of them tried to free her. They just didn't record the decision particularly well.
On counts 1 and 3. Count 2, there was a split, and it was more towards conviction, but for the lesser included of count 2.
Precisely.
I want you to take a listen to this. This is Daniel Wolf. This is one of the ACA, we call them ACA experts in the case, who investigated the case or was hired by the feds who were investigating the investigators, and now the defense has adopted them as their experts because their report, before the defense ever hired them, helped what the defense was arguing. Let's take a look.
Was there any apparent damage to the Lexus that appeared consistent with any kind of pedestrian interaction that you saw?
No, it was really confined to just the taillight, a very isolated portion of the vehicle.
In your expert opinion, based on all your testing, is the damage to the taillight that you saw consistent with striking a human head?
No.
In your expert opinion, is the damage to the taillight consistent with striking a human arm?
No.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay, so let me ask you. Now we've got experts, and both sides, they testify a lot. They're very educated. They know what they're talking about, but it's going to be both sides. This is going to be more of a classic battle of the experts.
It is.
Last time, defense won. So what does the jury do with that? Do they just make up their own minds?
They have to listen, and they have to see who they resonate with.
Correct.
So not what he or she, in this case, he's testified to. It depends on how they testify. How do they relate to the jury?
100%.
What the body language, the facial expressions, that to me is
Who they
what
like.
matters.
Exactly.
And who they don't like.
Literally, that is really always the case with experts.
But really, you've got to remember, this isn't a civil case. This is a criminal case. The Commonwealth's expert doesn't just need to equal the defense expert.
That's true.
They need to go above and beyond and cover beyond reasonable doubt. When there's a conflict between two very smart, qualified experts, and there's a legitimate disagreement as to what the conclusion is, that's a defense victory.
But maybe Trooper Joe Paul will then come in right after, and then
I don't think they should bring him in. I think they should.
I have a feeling he still will.
He was
testify.
very nervous.
I agree, but I think he'll come back in.
I'm sure a great guy. He didn't have the experience of testifying as an expert. But now that he's got one trial under his belt, he'll be much more,
He'll be better.
much
How
more
you
relaxed.
get the experience.
Okay, something else I want you to see. This is from Inside Edition. We got it. Here's Karen Reed outside of the courtroom yesterday.
I'm here. We're fighting. We'll keep fighting. I feel strong, so I feel good.
How do you feel about the former juror who's actually on your team now?
I'm sorry that I have these pickle chips in my mouth, but I feel just another resource. How did this land? How did even jury selection go for the jurors, the prospective jurors? So just another resource that we're utilizing.
Yeah. What does it mean to you to have her a part of your team?
I just feel lucky. I'm not paying any of these people. They're not asking for anything.
Wow. What do you think of that?
I think they're being paid. Whether she is directly paying them or not, they're being paid.
And
by the way, I've got pickle chips in my mouth.
The fact that she's talking, I can't believe any lawyer is allowing her out there. Period.
They need to pay someone to follow her around with, exactly. She does not need to be saying.
What did she say that was bad, though? She's
everything. Her voice.
Yes.
Her mere existence and speaking is a problem for her case.
You can't do that right now. This is a
the
murder
jurors
trial.
can't watch the news. They're told
It doesn't
not to watch
matter.
I'm sure they didn't watch the news. They don't look at social media.
Again, you don't
none
trust
of that.
our jurors.
No, it's not that. It's that they're inundated, and by existing, they're inundated. And by the way, they need to teach Karen Reed one thing: KYD.
Yes.
BMS.
Yes,
Keep
please.
your damn big mouth
shut.
All right, well, when we come back, we're going to talk more about Karen Reed in front of the jury. Plus, coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, convicted doomsday cult killer Lori Daybell back on trial for another murder. Her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. Tonight, two members of Lori's family join us live for a unique look at Lori and her deadly life.
Join Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates. Tonight, 9/8 Central, only on Court TV.
We're here to try and understand the mindsets behind your actions in this case.
Interview with a Killer, a special 2-hour season premiere, Sunday, April 13th, only on Court TV.
Let me ask it this way. Were you upset or annoyed or that Karen Reed had gotten representation, legal representation, to represent her?
No, not at all. That's her right.
Well, let me ask you this. In August of 2022, you said you absolutely hate it, correct?
I don't know if I used absolutely. Yeah, I didn't use absolutely, sir.
You used truly, correct?
Truly, yes.
How do you feel about him now? He's sitting right there.
I still don't care for him, no.
I'll let it stand.
That was not the only moment during Karen Reed's first trial where she had a visible reaction to testimony or things that are happening in the courtroom. You know, we watch a lot of trials and sometimes we talk about defendants and say they just sat there and did nothing. That's not Karen Reed. You could almost understand what she's thinking during certain moments of the trial when she's reacting to things that are happening, whether it's arguments by counsel, a ruling by the judge, or testimony from the witness stand. Do you remember this? This came out after the first trial because we didn't know about it beforehand, but some information came out after a ruling by the judge. that Juror A stated that Juror B had made comments to her about the defendant's facial expressions during the trial. The court ultimately decided to dismiss just Juror B from the jury because you can't make comments like that. And I think Juror A ended up off the jury as well. But from what I'm taking away from that is not the misconduct by the juror, which it was and should have been dismissed for talking about the case before deliberations, but getting inside the mind of the juror, that the juror was noticing the expressions of Karen Read during the course of the trial. Take a look, one more I have here. This is Jennifer McCabe is testifying. Take a look at Karen Read as this is happening.
You didn't say to Mr. O'Keefe, you're coming with me. You said to Karen Read, you're coming with me, or something to that effect, right?
Mr. O'Keefe was not outside when I said to Karen, you're coming with me. I told Karen, you're coming with me because John was still in the bar with Matt.
So you asked Karen to come with you in your car?
Yes.
To give her a ride?
Yes.
Separate from John O'Keefe?
Yes, I figured he could go with Matt because they were still in the bar.
Was there a reason why you wanted to separate Miss Read from Mr. O'Keefe at that moment?
No.
Why not just walk to your car with Matt and go where you're going to go?
Matt was still inside.
So you thought it was important enough to make the statement, you're coming with me, or something to that effect, to my client, to separate her from John O'Keefe, even though your testimony is John O'Keefe was just inside the bar.
Think Tank back with us. Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer. And I want to put it this way. If you're on trial for murder and you are factually innocent, you're going to be upset. You're going to be reacting. You're going to be angry at times. All of that. What I am pointing out here is the fact that jurors noticed it. So will they change? Will they speak to her during the second trial and say, maybe we shouldn't do that?
Think about
or be yourself and react to the moments.
No.
You've got a problem. Somebody has whatever the facial expression is, and you've got 12 men and women over there. One or two will love it, one or two will hate it, the rest of them won't notice. You don't know how any particular juror is going to respond to react to that facial expression, that body language. So you teach your client, be impassive if you can.
You're under a microscope, but think about what I would do if I was retrying this case. You have the entire trial on video, have an intern go through it. It's like watching an old football game when you're on Monday morning quarterbacking it. Get all the clips where you think your own vision of it is this was inappropriate, this was not such a good idea, this face wasn't a good plan, and then show it to her and then school her. Now, she's dumb enough to not listen, that's not our problem, but as a lawyer, I would say to all my clients, because I'm under a microscope as well, I've got to make sure that I don't have, you know, my jacket be too long or my hair out of space. They're very judgy. They are very judgy.
Josh is disagreeing.
Yeah, and I'm really going to push back on this because I want my client to be authentic and just listen. You're being like a lawyer. You're not even listening to the argument.
We're listening.
You must have raised children. So what you need, remember, we're not looking at this with 12 people kumbaya get together from Karen Read's side. We want, just like Daryl said, one or two people are really going to notice. A bunch won't. We want those people that notice to make judgments because as a defense lawyer, you want to divide that jury. You want some people to say, wow, she looks so mean. And other people go, whoa, why are you being so judgy, juror? Yeah, you're talking about people with a highly polarizing, emotional, engaging concept of trial. I want people to be staring at Karen Read knowing that this is super real. And as long as she knows they're watching, I'm awesome.
Yeah, but she's not a good, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say this out loud. She's not a good person. And so when you look at her, she does not portray the proper defendant qualities that I usually have as my defendants. In other words, there's nothing redeemable about her. I'm not saying she did do it or didn't do it, but everything I ever see about her.
What if she is factually innocent?
Exactly.
If she's factually innocent and did not do this, isn't it natural to have some anger? You know, a trooper gets up there who was saying all these things about you. They have accused you of things. You know the case as well as your attorneys, if not better, the facts inside out. This is your life that is hanging, in the balance.
Okay to get
and you
all
just
angry.
have to sit there like this and take it for 3 months?
You have to take it because as much as you take it, you're giving it. It reminds me of the old days when we had Dan Rather do a film, how to judge the Emmys, and his sleeve was sticking about 4 inches past his jacket, and nobody heard a word he said. They just
focused on the 4 inches.
Yes. You see, look at this. We can look at Daryl's.
I've got another one for you.
Daryl's socks are next.
Let's take a look. Let's take a look at another moment from the first trial. Katie McLaughlin is on the stand, and Karen Reed reacting. Let's watch.
Do you know any of Caitlin's siblings?
No.
You don't know Brian Albert Jr.?
No.
Do you know of any of her extended family that might be a little closer in age to you, like Colin Albert?
No.
Have you ever met any of them?
Not that I recall.
Not that you recall, or no?
I don't remember meeting any of them.
Your Honor, that's all I have right now.
Now, she said, and this was interesting, in the documentary that everyone's watched recently, she was talking about, I'm tired of being judged. You know, like, I look down to the right, up to the left, because this is when she's being interviewed and answering questions. She said, it's like too much already, it's ridiculous. But the problem is that when you get inside a courtroom, 12 people are judging you.
Correct.
And that's their job. Their only job is to judge you.
And by the way, Vinny, it wasn't a documentary, it was a docudrama. And that to me is a very big difference between just the facts, as Joe Friday would say, or the facts as you see them.
But lean into being judged, because that's why she's there, and know that the brass ring is dividing that jury. That's what you got to do. Stop worrying about, is someone going to dislike her? I hope people dislike her. I hope people like her. I hope people have very firm opinions as to whether she did or did not do anything, because that creates a win if you're a defense attorney.
Now, the
state, I bet the state also really wants her to make lots of expressions, because they can then comment on that.
Yes, they sure can.
And say, y'all have watched Miss Reed during this trial. You've seen her reaction, her incredulity, I'm not going to mispronounce that word, about these allegations.
And how cold she is about the fact that somebody's dead, and there's an actual person dead in this storyline. She's like,
She thinks she's above it. She thinks she's completely above it, and it's something going on that she's watching and observing, as opposed to being the focal.
Powerful for the Commonwealth to be able to use her expressions to build a tribe of conviction, while the defense says, no, absolutely wrong. Some of you are judging her on her face that she's guilty or not guilty. If you can't all agree, that's an acquittal under the rules of the law in America.
Do you think she'll change?
No.
No?
No, and that's spelled that, you know.
So we'll get this, it'll be the same in the second trial.
It will be. You just saw her yesterday do something
I know.
that was not appropriate.
That's not
I'm eating pickle chips.
Yes,
It would be so
That's not in front of the. That's not in front of the jury.
It doesn't
Yes,
matter.
it is.
But you said, is she going to change? Clearly, she hasn't changed. If
You
she's
don't
doing
trust
that.
our jurors.
It's in front of the jury because they're going to watch the news.
Trust our jurors.
I do trust them.
The good people of Norfolk County, Massachusetts.
You're going to trust the 12 people that couldn't figure out how to get out of jury duty? You want those people to decide?
People want to be on the jury.
That's another problem entirely.
Because folks in Massachusetts know it's their civic duty to serve when the state comes calling, and they are ready to do it.
And to make a lot of money on their book deal when it's over.
There's no money on a book. Maybe. Could be. All right. So no one thinks that it's going to be any different. We'll see. We'll see what the change is, because we're getting closer and closer to getting a jury in that case. When we come back, the accused Long Island serial killer back in court trying to keep out some DNA evidence. We'll get to the bottom of it next.
State police? Yeah, there's somebody after me. I'm sorry? There's somebody after me.
This is a 13-year case, so as you saw, we have a great deal of information, evidence, photographs, reports.
This case is a case that we're going to try in a courtroom. The press has convicted my client without seeing a shred of evidence.
She had no idea any of this was going on, or the allegations were even, her husband was a suspect.
The charges in the indictment are just allegations, so this is the first step in the process of proving those allegations.
The accused, Gilgo Beach, Long Island serial killer, back in court, and this is a hearing that's been taking place over the course of days, and they're trying to get some DNA evidence excluded. And you're saying, like, why would you have DNA evidence excluded? We've had it for years and years and years. Well, apparently this is a newer type of DNA evidence that we're talking about. Now, the lawyers for the accused killer want DNA tests conducted by Astria Forensics on hairs recovered from most of the 7 victims in the case to be excluded from the trial. The defense says that this California-based lab's method has never been accepted in a New York court of law. The prosecution expert says nuclear DNA or whole genome sequencing is widely accepted in the scientific community. And Dr. Kelly Harris, a professor of genome sciences, described Astria Forensics methods as an elegant and powerful way to determine whether hair fragments pulled from a crime scene match those taken from suspects. And what we're talking about here is rootless hairs. So it's like a piece of your hair, but not the root of your hair, which has a lot more information. I need a lot more information about that. So joining us, our DNA expert, top genetic genealogist. She's done groundbreaking work in the field that's led to the first convictions and exonerations based on all this. Cece Moore is with us. Cece, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me back.
Okay.
Yeah, this is such a fascinating subject.
So explain to how new, like this is, I sound like Johnny Carson. How new is it, this what we're talking about, this genome sequencing, nuclear DNA, or rootless hair DNA?
Well, the rootless hair part of it is new and it's groundbreaking. So I've helped identify 5 suspects using this technique that Dr. Ed Green from Astria Forensics developed. He developed it several years back. So it's not brand new. There's already been some convictions where the suspect was identified through this method, just not in New York State. And so this is obviously the highest profile case where this method was employed. When I first started in DNA research, I was told it was impossible to get nuclear DNA or autosomal DNA, which is what we use for these cases, out of rootless hair. But I always taught my classes never say never, because things are always advancing. And Dr. Ed Green, or Richard Green is his legal name, at UC Santa Cruz is just brilliant. And he found a way to do this about 8 years ago now.
So it's been around for 8 years. Are there members of the community, scientific community, who don't believe in this, who are saying this is not trustworthy, this is too brand new, and we're not quite there yet?
Well, like any type of investigative genetic genealogy, we use it as a lead. And so they were able to identify the sources of that hair, but that was confirmed later. I am confident that that was done. So that's always done where we say the genetic genealogy is leading this way or that way, pointing this way, and then that just provides a lead to law enforcement, and they have to confirm or refute that theory. Now, when people are saying nuclear DNA is new, that's not true, because the traditional STR profiles that have been used to charge and convict people for many, many years is also nuclear DNA. That, again, is that autosomal DNA. And so the part of it that is new and groundbreaking is the ability to pull that from that rootless hair. And it's true, as the scientist said, it is more fragmented. And when I first started working with it, there were a lot of considerations and adjustments I had to make in my work in order to work with it. But over the years that they have been perfecting this method at Astria, I myself personally have seen how much smoother it's gotten, how much more like it is, similar it is to all the other types of forensic DNA that we've been working with now since 2018. And so while it is groundbreaking and absolutely brilliant, it is not something that, in my opinion, should be getting this type of doubt. You know, DNA is still DNA. And if it points at somebody and they're able to confirm that, that's really what matters in the end. And that is how someone ends up getting charged and convicted.
All right, I wanted to read you something from the New York Post that they were reporting from court. As we know, New York, their cameras are not in there. Prosecutors apparently played a clip from Jurassic Park at a hearing in the case of the alleged Gilgo Beach serial killer Wednesday in an unusual move to defend their DNA evidence. A prosecution expert witness, Nicole Navrosky, the associate director at the Center for Human Identification for the University of North Texas, said Wednesday the type of science used for DNA analysis by investigators of the Gilgo Beach killings is not new and has actually been trusted for decades. During Navrosky's testimony, prosecutors played a clip for the judge from the popular film franchise showing how scientists extracted dinosaur DNA from a mosquito preserved inside amber and then used it to clone the animals that have been extinct for some 66 million years. I remember that scene. Navrosky said the DNA science referenced in the movie has been around since before it came out in 1993 and it's been verified thousands of times by people in the scientific community. She said it's accurate and reliable to use in forensics. Defense attorney Michael Brown asserted that this science is not real, comparing it to magic. He added that characters in Jurassic Park thought they had good science, but actually the dinosaurs ended up eating everyone. The judge laughed. What are your thoughts about this analogy of Jurassic Park to what's happening in this investigation?
I think it is a really interesting choice. I think there were, not that I am a legal expert and can second guess them, but there are probably more straightforward ways, less entertaining ways to explain this. We've been using full genome sequencing for many purposes for a very long time, for years. She said thousands of times it's been confirmed. I'm sure it's many, many, many more times than that. So Jurassic Park was sort of a fun way of illustrating it. But I think that we could talk about things that are reality that might be a better way to explain it. That's a better way. So are you saying, Cece, that if we could bring back a dinosaur with your help? No, I'm not. But I am saying if somebody has committed violent, intimate crimes, they have almost certainly left DNA behind, whether it is blood, whether it is touch DNA, whether it is hair, or even a hair of their family member, and we will find them.
Cece Moore, you always make something that is so complicated easier to understand. I'm not going to say easy because it's not easy, but easier to understand, and we appreciate your valuable time. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's get back to our think tank. Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer.
I got a little bit of pushback here, and I'm the son of an evolutionary biologist professor for 30 years. I grew up with DNA being talked about in my house because my dad was also a scientist. This test is wonderful. I know what they're doing with this new process, but the new process is new. There's not
8 years.
8 years in science can be very new because what you need is peer review, and there is some peer review. But what really makes me question its use in this case specifically, this is a new test that was impossible forever and ever and ever, the rootless DNA. And the problem is that it's done by one company, by the person who invented it. And while that is great,
you're saying conflict of interest.
Well, not just conflict of interest. It deserves confirmation from the rest of the scientific community, and that's what the process of being accepted as an expert, Dalbert Hearens and all that stuff,
I think they're going to let it in and just embattle experts.
Yeah, I think it comes in, but it's not just a home run kind of thing.
Oh, I think it's not only a home run, I think it's a grand slam. If it had only been a one or maybe two of the victims, I would think otherwise. Because it was on all but one, it tells me there's a forensic basis that can be translated to the jury where they will accept it. And I love the Jurassic Park explanation. I love it because jurors want to be entertained, especially when there's something that's piece by piece and boring, but I don't understand. But oh yeah, I do now. I love it.
This is unbelievable because there's always hair, a lot of times there's hair fibers found.
There's going to be more victims in this case too. The trial will.
But just what's happening now with this new technology, and they keep adding on and adding on. More cases can be solved, and on the other hand, you can have potential exonerations. So the defense bar should really be embracing this.
I think
not for this case, though.
But
not for this case.
Correct.
I embrace it overall, but not this case.
That's what I'm saying. I think this DNA is going to, when they start to get more and more ability to look at databases more centrally, they're going to find more victims for this particular storyline, and the DNA is going to even more seal the casket on his case, period.
Yeah, and I believe that this test just needs more and thorough retesting by the community. And that'll happen by this process. That's the great part about experts.
What do you think of playing Jurassic Park in the...
To dumb it down.
I already told you what I thought.
Incredible description. Absolutely visceral. I remember the scene.
Me too.
Exactly.
And most of us have
Brilliant.
seen it. Doesn't matter how old you are. Most of us knew what that when they referenced that scene and they're trying to explain DNA. I think it's brilliant because that's what experts should do. Make it into English so we understand it.
Okay, so he's fighting the fight. He's claiming his innocence. He's presumed innocent.
Good luck.
Awesome. But it's going to be a tough case. And if this stuff comes in, it becomes a lot tougher. Daryl Cohen, Meg Strickler, Josh Schiffer, thank you so much. Always great to have you here. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour.
Tonight on Vinnie Politan Investigates, doomsday cult killer Lori Daybell back in court, representing herself in her latest murder trial. Does she know what she is doing? Tonight, we investigate with two members of Lori's family.
Court TV's Vinnie Politan with the latest and breaking true crime stories.
Now, let's look at the other side of all of that.
Vinnie Politan Investigates, coming up next, only on Court TV.
We're here to try and understand the mindsets behind your actions in this case.
Interview with a Killer, a special 2-hour season premiere, Sunday, April 13th, only on Court TV.
Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Take a look, folks. An infant's body found in a cemetery. Take a listen to take a look at this post from the local sheriff in West Virginia. On the 27th, approximately 7:20, deputies were dispatched to Bayless Cemetery in Salt Rock in regards to a corpse and a busted casket within the cemetery. Deputies later found the casket was over an embankment, and what was later identified as the remains of an infant male were discovered approximately 30 yards away. During the initial investigation, no disturbed grave sites in the cemetery could be found, and then they're asking for any information. And now we're getting some local reporting. WOWK out there in West Virginia is now reporting that a grave digger has been arrested, and it may have been a baby from 1982. So what was a really bizarre mystery, because they were saying none of the grounds were disturbed, now they have arrested a grave digger. We'll follow up with that and keep an eye on it if anything else develops there. Right now, though, I need you to take a look at your screens. There is a child who is missing who needs your help. This is Jadiel Sical, missing from Cranston, Rhode Island since March 26, just 14 years old. He's only 14. Here's what you need to do. If you see Jadiel, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Cranston Police Department in Rhode Island. That number is on your screen right now. Let's see if we can get Jadiel to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime. Vinnie Politan Investigates is next. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.